Coming up next on The Voice of Alabama Politics, Judge Cobb hires a sex offender. Also, the V-Team takes another look at another Bentley lawsuit. And we enter the twilight zone of political season.
You have nothing but spindly limbs and a dream, and the state has no use for your kind.
Wow, a politician telling the truth. All this and much, much more coming up next on The V. Welcome to The Voice of Alabama Politics, where we tackle the tough issues so you have the hard facts. I'm your host, Bill Britt, and as always, I'm joined by the V-Team. Welcome all.
Good morning.
Hello.
Hello.
Charlie, how are you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
Lady in black. I guess
Yes.
we're matching today. They
We
didn't
are.
Get the memo. Okay.
Yeah, we didn't get the memo.
right.
No. Whatever.
Fine. I look good. We all know it.
Everybody,
We're in blue.
Everybody
Exactly.
We're in
looks
blue.
good. Everybody looks good. You know, it seems like lately that campaigns are just getting dumber or not paying attention to what they're doing. I mean, I know this is an off-season or off-year election, but the governor's race is getting downright silly, but it's also getting scary. Recently, we reported at alreporter.com that Sue Bell Cobb, her campaign, hired a registered sex offender who had forcibly raped and sodomized a 20-something-year-old woman in the commission of a crime. He was hired, Susan, and paid big money to get out the vote for Sue Bell.
The most disturbing part of this is that all you have to do is type Paul Littlejohn III. That's all the qualifiers you need into Google, and his sex offender registration comes up. First link. You don't have to go to a la carte. You don't have to go to any fancy thing. You go to Google. You type the guy's name and boom. He did 30 years in prison.
Charlie, there are second chances. We're all for people having second chances. In the article that AL.com wrote praising how this guy had gotten second chances, it never once mentioned the 20-year-old woman who was viciously raped by him and his buddy.
No, it didn't. And what really got me about it is, and I understand, personally, I don't feel that way, but I understand a lot of people's viewpoints about the second chances. But that's not the type, even if it is a second chance, that's not the type of person I want coming to my door. You know, or I'm sure anyone that has children, that's not, that was completely...
As to what you're saying, they actually had him going out door to door registering voters in Birmingham.
Yeah.
Susan, you went to the Secretary of State site, his company called Unity Group, I think it's called.
Unity Group Solutions.
Unity Group is not registered.
Not registered with the Secretary of State's. His name is not registered as any kind of incorporator. The only thing that could be is a sole proprietorship. Being homeless, as it says on his registration,
yeah,
I don't think that would qualify him to get a bank account. No. So I'm interested to see the backsides of these checks. Josh and I discussed it. If these are instruments of a campaign, then we believe that the checks themselves, both front and back, should be public record.
We want to see how he cashed them. I mean, Josh, I know your frustration. You like Sue Bell Cobb. I don't dislike her, but this is Democrats shooting themselves in both feet and the temple.
What are we even doing out here, man? I mean, I don't, how does that happen? How does it happen? All right, so it happened. And then apparently she held a press conference on Thursday morning to say that our stories were not factually accurate, which they were. And fire the sex offender working on the campaign.
And fire the person that hired the sex offender.
It's extremely simple. You
It's not
fire
hard.
them, you issue an apology,
yeah.
and you move on.
This ain't
Everyone
hard,
forgets
people.
about it in a couple weeks.
It ain't
Coming
hard,
out and
y'all.
denying
I
it.
mean, it's not.
Yeah.
It's not a hard thing to do. It's not a hard. It's a terrible problem that you've created for yourself. It's a very simple, straightforward solution to that problem, and I don't understand why that's not being done.
You know, and it's not like she's stupid. It's not like she hasn't
No.
run a campaign before. So,
Sorry.
I mean, to come out and say that we're not factual when the facts, you know, it's sort of like Mike Hubbard used to say, well, where'd you get your facts from? The state.
Yeah.
We have,
Yeah.
as you guys are seeing on the scene, we have two different sex offender registrations. We also have the campaign donations coming from the Secretary of State's website. We didn't make those up.
You know, it just doesn't make any. It doesn't make any. Even if your point is, I want to give somebody a second chance.
Right.
If you want to ride with that, okay, all right. You know, I'd have a lot more respect for that than I would. Well, that's not factual. It is factual. Stop. You know.
And the thing is, like what Charlie brought up, sorry, Susan.
Go ahead.
Is that you have this guy going door to
Yes.
door
Yeah.
Right.
in African American communities in Birmingham, which is what he said. And again, he raped and sodomized a young woman in the commission of a crime.
I want the list of all the persons he registered. I want to know how many women were in that home. I want to know how many children were in that home. If you were giving him a second chance, have him over here stuffing envelopes, not going door to door in the public.
Exactly.
Well, you don't get paid $40,000 for stuffing envelopes.
Well,
I'm sure
I've never
of that.
gotten $40,000 for registering voters either in 2 months.
Well, I'm not going to go there. Anyway, I want to move on to another issue that I take issue with, and that is Governor Kay Ivey finally released a letter from her doctor, or a doctor that she knows, that's saying she's an excellent help.
This Trump's doctor.
Thank you. That was right on.
This Trump's doctor.
Yeah.
It could have
The guy
been.
working on the campaign.
Did he dictate this letter as
Right.
well?
Could have been. I think his name was Elrod, not Bornstein or whatever.
If I had to guess, I would have guessed Elrod.
Yeah.
I would have guessed Elrod.
But anyway, Brian Elrod, Dr. Brian Elrod,
Probably a fine doctor. Do not mean to malign him at all.
Of course.
said that she was an excellent help, and then her campaign manager came out and said, well, he was sorry to mess up with everybody's, a stunt, misguided publicity stunt. You mean like Mountain Oysters is not a stunt,
Yeah.
shooting a gun is not a stunt?
Shooting a gun.
Yeah.
Shooting a gun, right?
I mean, come on, Josh. Asking a 73-year-old, a 62-year-old, a
Yes.
58-year-old. I mean, if they all put out their records, she shouldn't demean it by saying, I don't think her campaign manager should demean
No,
it.
and listen, let's be honest and professional about it, I guess here, because there have been serious questions raised about Kay Ivey's health.
That's right.
And rightfully so. Rightfully so. She had an incident in Colorado that they acknowledged a couple years ago. Whether or not she is in health is a legitimate question to be asking of anyone, not just a woman who's running for office at that age, but of anyone who's out there. A number of presidents do this routinely, so we can make sure that they're healthy. Governors have done this in the past. All of the people running for governor have released their stuff. And yeah, is it a publicity thing? Is it putting pressure on her and knocking her? Yes. But it came off really, really poorly,
Yeah.
the way
But
they handled that.
As a
It was-
voter, we have the right to know if they're in good health.
Sure.
And I'm sorry, if you are battling cancer, there is going to be sections of your time
Yeah.
you're going to want to spend dealing with that instead
Absolutely.
of dealing with the office. And the people of Alabama need to have the information to make that
And
decision.
we've had the history
on
here,
our own.
Yeah.
We
you
have.
know, of a governor
right.
being very, very
Yeah.
sick, and and so it's a legit question.
And not to mention that Bentley was out of his mind,
Yeah.
you know.
And this goes for any
but
statewide.
He was affected by another thing, I think. Another part of his body completely.
I did want to get into the fact that she was out on the shooting range with Bubba and Tim. And we'll get into that later. You're watching the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back with more Bang Bang with Butch Cassidy Ivey.
Bang, bang, baby.
You'll never guess what 400,000 people in the U.S. were using when they crashed their cars last year. No, not this. This. Distracted driving will kill you. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
Autism has touched the lives of so many here in Alabama. It's why State Senator Tom Whatley stood up to the special interests and sponsored the bill requiring insurance plans to provide autism therapy to those in need. Because Tom Whatley knows this therapy can and does change lives. And Whatley was recently recognized by the Autism Society of Alabama for his work helping the autism community. Putting people before politics. Tom Whatley.
Welcome back to The V, the voice of Alabama politics. Before we went to the break, I was referencing Kay Ivey, Governor Kay Ivey's shoot 'em up thing where she's like Yosemite Sam or somebody out there on the firing range. It's a great and it's a cute commercial if we want to show that our governor, who is a female, is next going to show up in camo. But I mean, it was pretty interesting, wasn't it?
It was very interesting. It was a cute little commercial, but I found it pretty funny. There was 3 shots before that clip was empty.
Yeah, she emptied it in 3 shots.
Oh, yeah.
That 9 mil, that was a few more than that.
A few more than 3.
That must have been one of those new restrictive ones that the Obama passed.
Yeah, it's Obama. Well, Obama took her AR-15 away from her, so she couldn't shoot it. And so
I'm ready to see Kay decked in camo. I really am, with an AK-47.
Hey, I'll go to the firing range with her. I got my Beretta.
I bet you.
So, just to be clear, you didn't actually see her shoot the gun.
No, you didn't.
That's what I said.
It was smoking,
that was a pretty clever cut shot right there.
Smoking.
I'm fine with not seeing her shoot the gun. I just wanted to point
Maybe
it
she
out.
shot it, but we don't know that she actually hit the target.
Well, the target rang.
Someone hit the target.
Anyway, it's kind of funny. It's a funny commercial. She's saving our monuments. She's cleaned up corruption.
She got rid of that Bentley mess.
And she got rid of Bentley mess.
Oh, yeah.
She's done none of that. She's done none of that. None
The
of it.
sarcasm,
Facts do
Josh.
not matter. It's a political commercial.
She's done none of it.
They never have
Zero
the facts.
You
of
can
that.
say anything in those commercials.
Speaking of saying anything, as long as you get paid. Perry O, the cream de la creme of the GOP establishment, has challenged Larry Lee, and to be quite honest, Larry Lee actually writes for APR from some time to time. He is one of the smartest people we know in education. But all of a sudden, Larry Lee is not a Republican, even though he's voted Republican. He has voted with Democrat before. But Josh, the funniest thing is he asked Perry O, who's doing this challenge. He said, "What were you doing in '68?" And Perry O said, "Well, I was a young boy." He said, "Well, I was working to get your father, GOP judge, elected." But they've challenged, Perry O has challenged Larry Lee's credentials.
Yeah, this is part of the kind of a little bit of the inside baseball of politics, the dirty part of things that people don't often see. And you get these guys that are running. You have somebody who is a challenge there to, let's say, someone the business council is going to back, and they don't want the challenge because Larry Lee is a guy who's a well-known commodity in the education community. He's got a lot of people respect, particularly teachers respect a lot, and so they want him out. And so you can beat him on the ballot if you can, which they don't think they can. But the easier way to do that is to just keep him off the ballot altogether. And that's what they're trying to do here. Is that they've essentially bought somebody on the state executive board here of the Republican Party, and Perry Hooper, and have paid him to file a challenge. Perry he won't tell him who the challenge is coming from. He referred to they when talking to the lady about the challenge, which lets you know it's not coming from him.
And Charlie, we looked at the challenge, and it's some 25 pages. And I got to tell you, I like Perry O to a degree, but he couldn't put together a 25-page wish list of what he wanted you to give him for free.
Absolutely not. There's no way he could. And one thing that really got me about the whole thing with him challenging Larry Lee's credentials, he's saying that he's not a Republican or because he took money from the AEA. They've all taken money from the AEA.
Bentley won the election with AEA money.
But wait a minute, Josh. Didn't Perry O take about 16 grand a month?
The entire family was on the payroll. And okay, who cares? They had a job to do. They paid them to do the job. What?
He told people at Al Gop, he said, "Well, I didn't take money from the AEA. I took money from Henry Mabry."
He was the executive director of the
AEA.
If you look right up in the top left-hand corner, it was at Alabama Education Association.
Yeah. The guy that actually is writing the challenge is Will Fuller. He's a young Turk here in town. His dad is Bill Fuller. And Will is kind of the Alex P. Keaton of that family.
Bill Fuller is a full-on Democrat, has been for
I would
a
think so.
long
But
time.
Will seems like a really nice young guy, and he's put this out there. He was very candid about
I
it.
paid him. He wrote a 25-page challenge.
He's got a candidate, I would imagine, or somebody is paying him. Josh, the story you wrote this week, The Gift That Keeps on Giving, Robert Bentley is being sued once again.
So, and by giving, you mean taking. I mean, it's just taking more money away, because we're going to have to pay for this as well. And isn't it yet another one of the fallout from the attempted cover-up, which was so smooth, that he couldn't figure out how iCloud works. And so it was the attempted cover-up of the alleged affair and the inappropriate relationship between him and Rebecca Mason. And, this part of it, he did so many things to so many people. I mean, he had all these people were pressured and put on the spot, and and were smeared, and this guy's James Nolan. He was the information officer there for the Department of Finance, and he basically responded to a subpoena and said, here's the emails that you requested in the subpoena that I have to honor or go to jail. And Bentley did not take kindly to that.
Yeah, I mean, they put out a story, Susan, that this guy had somehow mishandled information, that he had mishandled the computer privacy statutes or something like that. I mean, he was smeared all over. They even brought in the FBI to make it look like he was some kind of super duper
they came in,
crook.
they seized computers, there was this big dramatic thing. But remember, the person we're talking about, Bentley here, has so much technological intellect that he didn't realize that your iPhone and your iPad are connected for text messages, which is how Miss Bentley figured it out. So I'm sure he was able to identify all the kinds of corruption that was going on.
But you know what? The Governor Kay Ivey wrote Mr. Nolan some months ago and apologized to him. You know what we haven't heard is a single apology to Spencer Collier.
Who was done the same way.
Yep. Worse.
Much worse.
Spencer is laboring away down in Selma as the chief of police, but his case, Josh, is still ongoing.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying about this whole deal. They just did this. They had this tactic where they were using the Leah essentially to go after people and attack them and smear them to kind of ruin their credibility when it came time for them to testify or whatever they're going to do. And that's what they did to Nolan. That's what they did to Spencer. They just attacked him and kind of trumped up these charges. And this is the second guy involved in this thing where everybody said to come out on the backside and say, no, that's fine. The AG's office did it with Collier, and now the Kay Ivey did it with Nolan.
And what I don't understand is why the state just doesn't go ahead and bite the bullet and get rid of all these things once and for all. There is a fund to do just that, Susan.
Right. And remember, everybody needs to remember here, that every time that somebody sues Bentley in his capacity when he was governor, we foot the bill for the attorneys. We foot the bill. Somebody needs to take a leadership position, I don't imagine who that could be in our state government, and get this handled.
They need to just handle this stuff. We don't need to hear from the Love Gov ever again.
No.
We're going to have to leave it right there. You're watching the V, the voice of Alabama politics. We'll be right back with more news and opinion. There's a canary in the coal mine.
My work and my play take me to all 50 states, but Alabama is still my home. Alabama is where I live, and Alabama is where I vote. I'm Taylor Hicks, and I want you to be a registered voter and to have a qualified government-issued photo ID so you can vote too. Alabama has so much to offer. Let's do all we can to make her the best state she can be.
The Energy Institute of Alabama promotes reliable, affordable, and clean energy to help grow our economy, create high-paying jobs, and build public support for Alabama's energy industry. The Energy Institute of Alabama is the best source of energy industry information and how it affects households across the state, from convenient energy production to alternative fuels to solar power and beyond.
2/3 of drivers who died in car crashes chose to ignore this warning. Seatbelts save lives. Drive safe, Alabama. A message from your Alabama Department of Transportation.
Welcome back to the voice of Alabama politics. On April 10th, 7 of the state's largest, most powerful corporations went to the executive committee of the Business Council of Alabama and demanded that Billy Canary, the chief operating officer, be gone by June 1. Susan, we learned this week that Canary has said, come on, make me.
Yeah,
he's not going anywhere.
He basically blew him a raspberry.
Yeah.
And said, I'm not leaving in June. I don't care. You know, I'm staying. Y'all can do whatever you want to do.
And Charlie, can you imagine? And also Senator Richard Shelby, the most powerful Republican in the nation, has said he wants him to go, and this guy's giving them all the Bronx cheer.
That's what I'm saying. If you have that many people, that many like powerful corporations and people like Richard Shelby saying, we don't want you here, leave, I couldn't comfortably stay in my position. I don't see how he's staying there, how he wants to stay there.
Josh, he's got 600,000 reasons.
He wants to keep getting paid.
That's a good point.
The answer is, again, the answers to all of your questions is money. And so that's, I just don't. Arrest him. Why are we still doing this? These are the guys that pay the bills.
Yeah.
Pay the bills somewhere else.
Go move somewhere else. You have any number of places that you can go with your money. Yeah. You got all these people calling for you. Go. Why is the board not moving on this?
And
They're going to lose a lot of money if they don't get rid of it.
And what we have heard from a lot of political operatives is that if the Big Seven backs down and doesn't do something dramatic, people are going to go, okay, who can do anything?
And then it'll be over for good, but because people are getting tired of it, they're getting tired of hearing it. If they don't do something soon, it's just going to be the same old roll.
Well, and it's like an insurgent army.
Yeah.
All you have to do is just not get thrown, everybody die.
Yeah.
And Perry Hand, who is the chairman, who also is the chairman of Volcker Inc., a engineering firm out of Mobile. Josh, he's the one that's really keeping him alive.
Yeah, and that's because it benefits Volcker financially to do so. And as we've said before, there are other options for them if they wanted to go elsewhere and spend their money in other places, other influential lobbying groups that they could use there to do this. That frankly, right now, have a lot more respect in the State House than the BCA does.
That's right.
And again, it kind of just boils down to common sense here with this. Is if this is not getting you your money's worth, then why are you still doing it? And it seems as though they were very unhappy with Canary for a very good reason. He wasn't getting the job done for them.
Right.
And if you're not, why is he hanging around?
And he hasn't gotten it done for 2 sessions.
Right.
Yeah.
And the one thing, Charlie, he's pushing is this big gas tax increase for infrastructure. Everybody wants infrastructure, but they haven't agreed on how you get there. One of the things we've heard is that they're bringing people into BCA and saying, you have to pledge to us that you're going to vote for the gas tax, for the infrastructure package. We're not giving you money. Sounds like quid pro quo to me, Clarice.
Yeah, it really does. I just don't understand why he would be so obvious about something like that. But he's proven himself not to be the brightest bulb. So.
Well, I'm telling you, here it is.
You're right.
I'm telling you, they're getting these promises. And he's going to stay through the election, and then at the end of the election, they get their people. Then they're going to say, well, he needs to stay through session so that he can implement this tax, make sure it gets done, make sure that he gets the votes. I'm telling you, it's a tactic to keep drawing out his employment.
It just dawned on me. Robbie McGee with the Porch Creek Indians, remember, Robbie said anything the Big Seven take away, the Porch Creek Indians will put in. Josh, you don't have to be afraid. He's got Robbie McGee and the Kinneys behind him.
That may be a short-lived one.
And that's the people I had behind me. I'd be surrendering immediately.
And just listen. All I care about is if once they get the infrastructure money, could somebody please pave that stretch of I-65 in Coleman County? That's basically a gravel road now for 15 miles.
Oh, I thought that was the annex of the Alaska Highway from the 60s.
It would be, ice road truckers would be smoother than that. I mean, I don't know, it's been that way for a year. They're not doing anything. That's, a personal request.
Well, it's an election year, so they can promise it this
I noticed
year.
we've got a couple of ALDOT commercials on here. Maybe you could speak with John
I would like, listen,
that.
I heard Ivey yesterday make a big deal about 565 expansion being a priority for her campaign. So maybe just the paving of 65 would be helpful to the people coming through your state from northern states, coming down to go to the beaches and stuff. They hit that.
That Tommy Battle has got that part of the state.
I gotcha.
He's governor up there. She wants to be governor of the rest of the state.
We're dividing it into different sections for government.
I like that idea.
The South is seceded here. Is that what you're saying? South Alabama is seceded?
Well, I mean, it didn't work out so well the first time, so maybe not. Susan, we released, we have the unofficial League of Influentials poll. Alabama Political Reporter did a poll this week where we asked our group of influentials, these are lobbyists, government affairs folks, media folks, legislators, government officials.
Leadership.
Give us the breakdown, Susan.
And like you said, it's early, but we wanted to give everybody kind of a sneak peek.
Not official.
Where they're saying that where they've been most surprised in a statewide races as the results of the June 5th primary is going to be in the Attorney General's race. And that is by 44%.
So they think that's going to be a surprise upset.
That's going to be the surprise upset, is how that's going to come out. The percentage for each of the GOP governor candidates on election day.
I think it's going to be Chris Christie.
Yeah, Chris Christie, right. Ivey's leading by a sound 51%, followed by Tommy Battle with 25, Scott Dawson with 26, Hightower with 8. Lieutenant Governor, we've got Twinkle Kavanaugh at 52. Ainsworth at 33, Rusty Glover at 15, and my computer just went crazy. But that's kind of our top.
Basically our top tier. In other words, these are politicos predicting what we're going to see, Charlie, and they have Ivey leading without a runoff. Probably they have probably a runoff in the Attorney General's race, and they have looks like Twinkle walking away with the light gov race.
Probably, most likely.
You know what the biggest surprise? I mean, you can tell you what the biggest surprise will be. I bet Ivey has a runoff.
Well,
she does too.
We hear that Battle is surging in the poll, and we also hear that Scott Dawson is coming out with something next year.
Next week.
Well, it might as well be next year. I don't know. Next week, that's probably going to just upset the entire apple cart.
I'm excited.
We'll see.
Yeah, and also in our polls, I think we saw there's going to be a runoff in the Attorney General's office between. It's looking like Marshall and Troy King.
Yeah, it looks like that.
That was the other one I wanted to
I'd really hate to see that. Marshall is the crookedest politician
and
that we have.
Worse.
This past week was Milton McGregor's 79th birthday, and as he would say, Steve Marshall's the crookedest SOB I've ever seen.
Crooked as a dog's hind leg.
Yeah, something like that. But anyway.
He said a few things.
Yeah, something clever.
He did not like him.
All right, you've been watching The V, the voice of Alabama politics. You watch us because we watch them.